Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the mining laser cut through another chunk of asteroid rock. The beam glowed bright blue against the black of space, carving away layers of stone to reach the precious metals hidden. Inside, he had been working on Kepler 442 mining station for 3 years now, and he still found the work peaceful in its own way. The mining station floated quietly in the asteroid belt, far from any major shipping lanes or military outposts. It was just a small platform with living quarters, workshops, and the massive mining equipment that kept Earth's factories running. 12 humans called this place home, at least for 6-month rotations before they could return to Earth for leave. Lisa Carter looked up from her communications console and smiled at Jake. She was monitoring the long-range sensors while also keeping track of the daily reports they sent back to Earth Command. Her job was to make sure nothing unexpected showed up in their little corner of space, though nothing ever did. The most exciting thing that happened out here was when someone found a particularly rich vein of platinum or rare earth metals. Ryan Bell emerged from the engine room, his coveralls stained with grease and coolant. He was the chief engineer, responsible for keeping all the mining equipment running smoothly. The work was hard, but satisfying. Every day they pulled valuable resources from dead rocks, materials that would help build new ships, new stations, and new homes for humanity. As they spread across the galaxy, Jake turned back to his console and adjusted the mining laser's focus. They were working on a particularly large asteroid today, one that the survey drones had identified as being rich in titanium and other strategic metals. The work was going well, and they would probably finish extracting everything valuable within. The next few days, life on the mining station was simple but good. The crew worked together like a family, sharing meals in the small cafeteria and playing cards in the recreation room during their off hours. They all knew each other's stories, their hopes for the future, and their families back on Earth. Jake often talked about his younger sister, who was studying to become a doctor. Lisa shared pictures of her nephew's birthday parties. Ryan told everyone about the house he was building in Colorado with the money he earned from mining. The station's artificial gravity kept them comfortable, and the recycling systems made sure they had clean air and water. Food came from the hydroponic gardens that Lisa tended in her spare time, supplemented by supplies that arrived every 3 months on cargo ships from Earth. It was not a luxurious life, but it was honest work that paid well and helped humanity. Grow Stronger. Jake was adjusting the mining beam's angle when Lisa's console started beeping rapidly. She frowned and leaned forward, checking her sensors more carefully. The long-range scanners were picking up something unusual, 3 objects moving toward their position at high speed. "Jake, you might want to look at this," Lisa called out, her voice carrying a note of concern that made everyone in the control room turn toward her station. Jake walked over and looked at her screen. 3 large objects were indeed moving toward them, but they were not showing up clearly on the sensors. The shapes were wrong for cargo ships or passenger vessels, and they were moving much faster than any civilian craft should be able to travel. Could be military ships from one of the other colonies, Ryan suggested, joining them at the console. "Maybe they are running exercises or something." Lisa shook her head. "I tried to contact them on all the standard frequencies, but they are not responding. And look at this." She pointed to another part of her screen. "Their engine signatures do not match anything in our database. These are not human ships." The 3 objects continued to approach, and as they got closer, the station's sensors began to resolve more details. The ships were definitely not human. In design, they had strange, angular hulls with weapon ports that looked far too large for any peaceful purpose. These were warships, and they belonged to an alien species that none of the humans had ever encountered before. Jake felt his heart start to race. First contact with alien species was supposed to happen through official diplomatic channels, with trained negotiators and military escorts. It was not supposed to happen to a small mining crew in the middle of nowhere, with no weapons and no way to defend themselves. "Try to contact Earth Command," Jake ordered, moving quickly back to his own console. "Send them everything our sensors are picking up about these ships. And try to establish communication with the aliens. Maybe they are just curious about what we are doing out here." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls as she sent an emergency transmission toward Earth. The message would take 3 weeks to reach home, traveling at the speed of light across the vast emptiness between star systems. She also broadcast on every frequency she could think of, trying to make contact with the approaching alien vessels. The 3 ships continued to close in on the mining station. As they got nearer, their true size became apparent. Each one was easily 10 times larger than the mining station, with hull plating that looked thick enough to stop any weapon the humans might have. Not that they had any weapons. The mining station was completely defenseless, equipped only with tools for cutting. Apart asteroids, Ryan ran through the station, alerting the other crew members and telling them to prepare for possible evacuation. The station had 3 small escape pods, but they could only hold 4 people each. If something went wrong, not everyone would be able to get away safely. And even if they could all escape, the pods only had enough fuel and life support to last a few days. The alien ships came to a stop just outside the asteroid belt, close enough that the station's cameras could make out details on their hulls. They were covered in weapons, with massive gun turrets and missile launchers pointing in every direction. These were not exploration vessels or merchant ships. They were built for war. Jake tried to stay calm as he continued working his console, but his hands were shaking. He had never been in a situation like this before. None of them had. The mining station crew were engineers and technicians, not soldiers or diplomats. They had no training for dealing with hostile aliens, and no weapons to defend themselves even if they did. "Still no response to our communications," Lisa reported, her voice tight with fear. "They are not answering on any frequency." The lead alien ship began to move again, approaching the mining station slowly and deliberately. Its weapon systems powered up, energy readings spiking across Lisa's sensors. The message was clear, even without words. The aliens had not come here to talk. Jake reached for the emergency beacon controls, knowing that it might be the last thing he ever did. Someone on Earth needed to know what happened here. Someone needed to know that humanity had been attacked, without warning, without provocation, by aliens who saw them as nothing more than insects to be crushed. The first plasma blast lit up the darkness of space like a miniature sun. Admiral Patricia Stone stood in the communications center deep inside Earth Defense Command, watching the holographic display with growing anger. The message from the Kepler 442 mining station had arrived 3 weeks after Jake Morrison sent it, traveling across the vast emptiness of space at the speed of light. What she saw made her blood run cold. The recording showed the final moments of the mining station. Jake Morrison's face filled the screen as explosions rocked the small outpost behind him. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him, reporting that 3 alien warships had attacked without warning. The transmission cut to static just as a massive explosion tore through the station's hull. "Play it again," Admiral Stone ordered, her voice tight with controlled fury. The technician nodded and started the recording over. This was the 4th time they had watched Jake Morrison die, and each viewing made the reality more clear. 12 innocent humans had been murdered by aliens who saw them as nothing more than pests to be eliminated. President Marcus Hill entered the communications center, flanked by his security detail and several members of the United Earth Council. His face was grim as he approached the holographic display. He had already seen the recording, but he needed to witness it again with his military commanders present. How long ago did this happen? President Hill asked. Based on the transmission delay, the attack occurred 3 weeks and 2 days ago. Admiral Stone replied. The mining station and all hands aboard were completely destroyed. No survivors. General Helen Brooks stepped forward from the group of military officers. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. As head of the Terra Defense Initiative, she had been preparing for this day for over a decade. Sir, we need to discuss our response options, General Brooks said to the President. This was an unprovoked attack on human civilians. Under interstellar law, we have the right to defend our people. President Hill nodded slowly. He had been hoping this day would never come, but humanity had always known that peaceful expansion into space might eventually bring them into conflict with hostile alien species. That was why they had been secretly preparing for war, even while publicly promoting peaceful exploration. Dr. Nathan Price entered the room carrying a sealed briefcase. He was the head of Advanced Weapons Research, a division so secret that most government officials did not even know it existed. His job was to make sure that humanity would never be defenseless against alien threats. Mr. President, we need to brief you on our current military capabilities, Dr. Price said, setting his briefcase on the table and entering his security codes. Briefcase opened to reveal a portable holographic projector. Dr. Price activated it, and suddenly the room was filled with images of weapons and starships that looked far more advanced than anything the public knew about. Plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. Stealth systems that made ships invisible to most sensors. Kinetic bombardment platforms that could crack planets. For the past 15 years, we have been developing these systems under the cover of peaceful research programs, Dr. Price explained. Every cargo ship, every research vessel, every civilian transport that we have sent into space has actually been a disguised warship. We have been building the most advanced military force in known space. President Hill stared at the holographic displays in amazement. He had known that some military research was being conducted, but he had never imagined the scope of what had been accomplished. The weapons shown here were decades ahead of anything that other nations on Earth possessed. How many ships do we have? President Hill asked. Currently, we have over 300 vessels in various stages of readiness, General. Brooks replied. Most of them are already deployed throughout human space, disguised as civilian craft. We can have a strike force assembled and ready to move within 72 hours. Admiral Stone pulled up a star chart showing the location of the Kepler 442 system and the surrounding regions of space. Intelligence reports indicated that the attacking aliens came from a star cluster about 50 light-years away, where several hostile species were known to operate. We believe the attackers were from the Zephyrian Collective, Admiral Stone said, pointing to a red zone on the star chart. They are a militant empire that has been expanding aggressively for the past century. Intelligence suggests they view other species as inferior and suitable only for conquest or elimination. Captain Alex Turner stepped out of the group of naval officers. He was young for his rank, but he had earned his position through exceptional skill and leadership. His ship, the UES Vengeance, was one of the most advanced vessels in the human fleet, disguised as a deep space research vessel, but actually armed with enough firepower to level cities. Sir, request permission to lead a reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence on Zephyrian positions and capabilities, Captain Turner said. President Hill looked around the room at his advisors and military commanders. Every face showed the same expression of determination and barely controlled anger. Jake Morrison and his crew had been good people, working honest jobs to help humanity expand into space. They had not deserved to die. The Zephyrians made a mistake when they killed our people, President Hill said slowly. They think we are weak because we prefer peace. They think we cannot fight back because we have not shown them our weapons. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Diana Cross, the head of military intelligence, activated her own holographic display. It showed detailed information about Zephyrian military installations, trade routes, and population centers. Her agents had been gathering this information for years, preparing for the day when humanity might need to defend itself. "We have complete intelligence on their military structure," Diana Cross reported. "They have approximately 200 warships spread across 15 star systems. Their technology is advanced, but not as sophisticated as ours. Most importantly, they have no idea that we possess any military capabilities at all." General Brooks smiled grimly as she studied the intelligence reports. The Zephyrians had made the classic mistake of underestimating their enemy. They had attacked what they thought was a defenseless mining operation, not knowing that they had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. "Gentlemen and ladies, we are going to show the Zephyrians what happens when you murder human beings," General Brooks said. "We are going to hunt down every ship that participated in the attack. We are going to destroy their military capability. And we are going to make sure that every alien species in the galaxy understands that human blood has a price." President Hill nodded his approval. "Admiral Stone, you have full authorization to begin military operations. Captain Turner, take your fleet and find the aliens who killed our people. Dr. Price, make sure our ships have everything they need to complete their mission." The room buzzed with activity as orders were given and plans were set in motion. Earth was going to war, and the galaxy was about to discover that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. In the holographic display, Jake Morrison's final message continued to play on repeat, a constant reminder of why they were fighting. 12 humans had died for no reason other than being human. The aliens responsible would pay for that mistake with their lives. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UE's Vengeance as his fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace. Behind him, 49 other ships waited in the swirling blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel. To any outside observer, they looked like a simple convoy of cargo ships and research vessels. The truth was very different. 30 seconds to normal space, his navigation officer announced. Alex checked his weapon systems one final time. Hidden beneath the Vengeance's peaceful exterior were plasma cannons powerful enough to melt through battleship armor, missile launchers loaded with planet cracker warheads, and stealth generators that could make his ship invisible to most known sensors. Every vessel in his fleet carried similar surprises. "All ships, remember the plan," Alex said into his communication system. "We decloak simultaneously across all 12 target systems. Hit them hard and fast. Show no mercy." The hyperspace tunnel collapsed around them, and suddenly they were in normal space at the edge of Zephyrian territory. Alex's sensors immediately began scanning for enemy ships, while his stealth systems activated, making the human fleet invisible to alien detection equipment. "Target confirmed," his sensor operator reported. "Zephyrian supply depot on Thyros." Just like intelligence said, 3 destroyers and a heavy cruiser in orbit, plus orbital defense platforms. Alex smiled coldly. The Zephyrians had no idea what was about to hit them. They were going about their normal business, completely unaware. That death had just arrived in their star system. "All ships, this is Turner," he broadcast to his fleet. "Remember Jake Morrison. Remember the 12. Begin the attack." 50 human warships decloaked at the same moment, appearing like ghosts materializing from empty space. The Zephyrian ships barely had time to raise their shields before the first wave of plasma fire reached them. Colonel Sam Parker watched from the bridge of the UES Thunder as the space battle unfolded around Thyros. His job was to lead the ground assault once the orbital defenses were cleared. His soldiers were loaded into drop pods, ready to rain down on the planet's surface. Like falling meteors, the first Zephyrian destroyer died within minutes, its hull melting under concentrated plasma fire from 3 human ships. The alien crew never had a chance to send a distress signal. The second destroyer tried to run, but Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stone's ship, the Hughes Lightning, caught it with a spread of guided missiles that tore it apart. Orbital defenses neutralized, Rachel reported over the fleet communications network. Planet is clear for ground assault. Colonel Parker's drop pods launched from the Thunder's belly, streaking down through Thyros's atmosphere like shooting stars. The Zephyrian ground forces on the supply depot scrambled to organize a defense, but they were not prepared for human military tactics. Parker's soldiers hit the ground running, their advanced armor protecting them from Zephyrian energy weapons, while their own plasma rifles cut through alien cover like paper. The battle for the supply depot lasted 6 hours, and when it was over, every Zephyrian soldier was dead. Meanwhile, in another star system, Commander Vex Thul received the first reports of the human attacks. He was the same alien who had ordered a destruction of the mining station 3 weeks ago. At the time, he had thought it was a simple matter of eliminating inferior life forms who had wandered into Zephyrian space. Impossible, Vexthal snarled as he read the reports flooding in from across his empire. Humans do not have warships. They are a weak species that barely knows how to travel between stars. His communications officer looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. Sir, we are receiving reports of attacks in 12 different systems. The humans are using advanced weapons and stealth technology. Our forces are being destroyed. Vexthal felt his blood run cold. The humans were supposed to be harmless. Intelligence reports had indicated they were a peaceful species focused on trade and exploration. This level of military capability should have been impossible for them to develop without someone noticing. Order all ships to fall back to the core systems, Vexthal commanded. We need to regroup and assess this threat properly. But it was too late for an orderly retreat. Captain Amy Johnson's ship, the UES Retribution, dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of Vexthal's fleeing fleet. The human ship looked like a harmless cargo vessel, but appearances were deceiving. This is Captain Johnson of the United Earthship Retribution. Amy's voice came over the communications channel. Commander Vexthal, you are responsible for the murder of 12 human civilians. Surrender now, and you will be taken alive. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Vexthal's pride would not allow him to surrender to what he still considered an inferior species. All ships, attack the human vessel. Show them the power of the Zephyrian collective. The battle was brutally one-sided. Amy's ship seemed to dance between the Zephyrian plasma bolts, its stealth systems making it almost impossible to target accurately. When the Retribution returned fire, its weapons tore through Zephyrian shields like they were made of tissue paper. One by one, Vexthal's ships were destroyed or disabled. His own flagship, the mighty pride of Zephys, found its engines crippled by human missiles and its weapon systems melted by plasma fire. Within an hour, he was the only Zephyrian ship left intact, and only because the humans wanted him alive. Across Zephyrian space, the pattern repeated itself. Major Kevin Wright led successful ground invasions on 6 different worlds, his soldiers moving with precision and ruthlessness that shocked the alien defenders. Commander Tony Davis's stealth fighters eliminated Zephyrian command centers with surgical strikes that left the aliens confused and leaderless. The Zephyrian High Command realized they were facing a military disaster unlike anything in their history. These were not the weak, peaceful humans they had expected. This was a war machine that had been hidden and prepared for years, waiting for someone to give them a reason to reveal themselves. Send envoys to the humans. The Zephyrian Supreme Commander ordered, "Offer them terms for peace. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see." But when the Zephyrian peace envoys reached human space, Admiral Stone refused to meet with them. Her message was broadcast on all frequencies throughout Zephyrian territory, ensuring that every alien in their empire could hear it. The Zephyrian Collective attacked and murdered 12 innocent human beings without provocation. Admiral Stone's voice echoed across the stars. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will be no peace until every ship that participated in that attack has been destroyed and every commander who ordered it has been brought to justice. In the depths of space, human fleets continued their relentless advance toward the Zephyrian home system. They moved like hunters stalking wounded prey, methodically destroying military installations and capturing strategic positions. Every human ship carried the same message painted on its hull in letters large enough for alien sensors to read. Remember Jake Morrison. Remember the 12. The Zephyrians had awakened something terrible when they killed those humans on the mining station. They had expected to crush a few weak insects and return to their normal business. Instead, they had declared war on the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, and the predators were coming home. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Vengeance as 200 human warships emerged from hyperspace around Zephy's Prime. The Zephyrian homeworld hung before them like a blue and green jewel, completely unaware that its doom had just arrived. This was the largest military operation in human history, and it would be the last battle of the war. The Zephyrian home fleet tried to form a defensive line around their planet, but they were already beaten before the fight began. 3 months of constant warfare had destroyed most of their best ships and killed their most experienced commanders. What remained were mostly older vessels with frightened crews who had heard the stories of human brutality. "All ships, this is Turner," Alex broadcast to his massive fleet. "Today we finish what the Zephyrians started when they murdered Jake Morrison and his crew. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you spill human blood." General Helen Brooks watched the space battle from her command ship while coordinating the largest ground invasion in Earth's history. 500,000 human soldiers waited in dropships and assault transports, ready to pour down onto the Zephyrian homeworld like a tide of destruction. These were not the same peaceful explorers who had once mined asteroids in distant space. These were warriors who had been forged in the fires of righteous anger. The space battle above Zephy's Prime lasted only 6 hours. Human plasma weapons tore through Zephyrian shields, while their stealth technology made accurate return fire almost impossible. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed or forced to surrender. By the time the last Zephyrian vessel fell silent, the skies above their homeworld belonged to humanity. "Begin orbital bombardment," General Brooks ordered. "Target military installations, government buildings, and communication centers. Leave the civilian areas alone for now." Beams of pure energy lanced down from the human fleet, turning Zephyrian military bases into pools of molten metal. The aliens' proud capital city burned as human weapons reduced their centers of power to ash and rubble. This was not random destruction, but surgical precision, designed to break the enemy's will to fight. Colonel Jerry Thompson led the first wave of ground troops down to the planet's surface. His Marines landed in the heart of the Zephyrian capital, their advanced armor shrugging off alien energy weapons, while their own guns cut through enemy defenses like scissors through paper. The fighting was brutal, but one-sided. Human soldiers had been trained for this war their entire lives, while the Zephyrians were learning that their victims were far more dangerous than they had ever. Imagine Commander Vextol sat in a prison cell aboard the U.E.'s Vengeance, his hands bound with restraints that would have held a much larger creature. He had been captured during the earlier battles, kept alive so that he could witness the destruction of everything he had once commanded. The alien who had ordered the death of 12 innocent humans was about to learn the true cost of his arrogance. Admiral Patricia Stone entered the prison section of the ship, her face cold as winter steel. Behind her walked 2 guards carrying a holographic projector. She had come to deliver a message that the Zephyrian commander would never forget. "Commander Vexthal," Admiral Stone said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I want you to see something." The holographic projector activated, showing an image of Jake Morrison and his 11 crew members. They were smiling and laughing in the recreation room of their mining station, playing cards and sharing stories just hours before they died. They looked so young and full of life, so innocent of the violence that was about to consume them. "These 12 humans," Admiral Stone continued, "were worth more than your entire species. They were miners and engineers, people who spent their lives building things instead of destroying them. They never hurt anyone. They never threatened anyone. And you killed them because you thought they were weak." Vexthal stared at the images, finally beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. He had ordered the destruction of the mining station because he saw humans as inferior creatures who had no right to exist in Zephyrian space. He had never considered that those humans might have families, friends, or an entire civilization that would seek revenge for their deaths. Outside the ship, Dr. Nathan Price was preparing to activate the most terrible weapon in humanity's arsenal. The Ragnarok Protocol was designed to turn stars into weapons, a technology so dangerous that it had never been tested on inhabited systems. Today, that would change. "Ragnarok stations are in position," Dr. Price reported to Admiral Stone. 12 artificial suns, 1 for each human who died, ready to activate on your command. Admiral Stone looked out at the Zephyrian homeworld one last time. Cities covered its surface, home to billions of aliens who had lived their entire lives believing they were the strongest species in the galaxy. In a few minutes, their world would become uninhabitable, a burned wasteland that would serve as a permanent reminder of what happened when humanity was pushed too far. Jake Morrison was a mining engineer from Colorado, Admiral Stone said to Vexthal. Lisa Carter was a communications officer who grew tomatoes in the station's garden. Ryan Bell was building a house for his family back on Earth. You never bothered to learn their names before you murdered them. But the galaxy will remember them long after your species is forgotten. She turned to Dr. Price and gave the order. That would end the Zephyrian Collective forever. Activate Ragnarok Protocol. 12 artificial suns ignited around Zephy's prime, bathing the planet in radiation that would make it uninhabitable for thousands of years. The oceans boiled away into space, while the atmosphere burned like a torch. In less than an hour, the proud homeworld of the Zephyrian Collective became a dead rock floating in the void. The surviving Zephyrian populations on other worlds watched in horror as their empire collapsed around them. Their military was destroyed, their technology confiscated, their leaders dead or captured. Those who survived were scattered to refugee camps on distant worlds. Forever dependent on the mercy of other species. Captain Turner stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian capital, watching human engineers build a memorial where the alien government buildings had once stood. The monument would bear the names of Jake Morrison and his 11 crew members, a permanent reminder that human blood was never spilled without consequence. Message went out from Earth to every alien species in the galaxy. It was simple and direct, broadcast on all frequencies in every known language. The words were spoken by Admiral Stone herself, standing before the memorial to the fallen miners. Let this be a lesson to any species that considers humanity weak. Her voice echoed across the stars. We are slow to anger, but terrible in our wrath. We prefer peace, but we are very good at war. Touch one human, and you declare war on all humanity. And when humanity goes to war, we do not stop until our enemies are extinct. Years later, alien children would learn about the Zephyrian War in their history classes. They would study how a small mining station in the middle of nowhere became the spark that lit a fire across the galaxy. They would learn that humans looked peaceful and weak, but were actually the most dangerous predators in known space. And they would learn never to make the same mistake the Zephyrians made when they killed Jake Morrison and his crew. The galaxy was a safer place now, protected by the knowledge that humanity was watching. The price of human blood was extinction, and everyone knew it. Peace reigned among the stars, enforced by the memory of what happened when that peace was broken. Jake Morrison's sacrifice had not been in vain. He had died sending a message that saved countless lives and prevented future wars. His name was carved in stone on 1,000 worlds, a reminder that even the smallest human life was worth more than entire alien civilizations. The mining station where he died was gone, but humanity's answer echoed through eternity. They had killed one human, and Earth had answered with fire.